Hi, this is Kimberly Reuter, business advisor and supply chain expert, and welcome back to my podcast. So, thank you for being here. We are back with Alicia for a wonderful discussion as part of our Inner Edge series. And, Alicia, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, today we are talking about the in between space. And that is the place where transitions happen. And they could be personal transitions, they could be business transitions, professional transitions, anything that is moving you from where you've been to the future. And
Okay.
and I would say the unknown future.
And sometimes these are forced on us, right? We don't always choose a transition. Sometimes we just get transitioned. So, this is a
Sometimes it's
great
not
conversation for what's
not
going on
unusual
here.
here.
We have a lot of volatility here in the United States right now, so this is an excellent conversation for us to talk about. If you happen to be being transitioned voluntarily or not, this is going to be for you. So great. So walk us through, Alicia. What is this space that you're talking about?
So actually the Tibetans call it the bardo. And the
Mhm.
bardo is the space between what was and what will be. That's like a general thing. And if you recall, many years ago, a man named William Bridges wrote a book called Transitions,
Mhm.
and he called it the neutral zone.
Okay.
But it's the same thing. It's the place where you know you don't want to be where you are,
Yep.
and you still don't understand or don't fully know what the future holds or what that future is for you. So
Yeah.
typically, and actually, this is the kind of place where people come to work with me here in Portugal
Yeah.
when they have either been laid off or they're thinking of making a change or they've kind of lost their way or their
Yeah.
purpose or social entrepreneurs who forget why they were so mission driven. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons, but that's the space in between. And a lot of things happen gradually. It doesn't necessarily happen abruptly. It's
Yep.
more like gradually you either stop losing interest or as you said, sometimes it's forced on you and you kind of see the writing on the wall and wonder, well, what can I do with this? Where should I go?
Right. Yeah, and it's a slow boiling of the frog, right? It's not you don't wake up one day and be like, "Oh, like, it's all over." Like, it took time for this kind of build up for you, and you get to and so personally for me, what that felt like and when I ended up out in Portugal with you was, like, I felt very lost, like, I felt unmoored, you call it drifting. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't have purpose, I didn't have goals, I had met all my goals, I had set all these big lofty goals, I'd met all the goals, and I got to the end, and I was like, "Now what?" And so that's what it felt like for me, is it felt like being adrift.
Right. And so people experience that the emotion that comes with it, I guess, is people experience it as fear. I'm
Yep.
afraid. I'm afraid
Yes.
I'm losing something or I'm afraid that I don't know where I'm going. So, this in between space is fraught with fear. And
Mhm.
my job when I work with people is to like switch that because indeed that is the most fertile space.
It
That is
is.
it is. It's just ripe for creative endeavors. It's ripe for thinking because how many of us really have a lot of time to think, to pause for a significant amount of time, not just like a minute, but like even a month or so to think
Right.
about where am I? Is this where I really want to be, or is there someplace I want to go to?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
so whether it's forced on you or you choose it, like a lot of people will go on sabbatical to like take stock. I love the term the examined life because
Yes.
that's what's available in that space. And so you move away from the fear of it and start looking at that space as a place of curiosity and experimentation. What can
Yep.
I experiment with? Because the other thing that people go into is whatever decision I make right now is like forever. It's not.
Yes. No, it's a living, breathing thing. You can change your mind. You can go backwards. Yeah, I think that's one of the
Yeah.
big things that you and I worked a lot through was my fear of saying yes or no to something, and then later being like, well, and how we kind of got through that, and what you helped me with was that when you're presented with new information, you get to make a new decision.
That's right. You
Yeah,
adapt, you
yeah,
adjust. And
yeah.
so oftentimes I tell people, let's play pretend like a
Hmm.
game. Let's lower the sensation that there's so much risk associated with it. Whatever decision we make, I mean, there are very few like what I call life and death decisions, things that like
Hmm.
irreversible, right? Very few of them. But yet we experience a lot of our anxiety around making a decision. It's like, I have to make the right decision. Well, what is the right decision?
Yes.
I don't
I
know.
know, and we get so wrapped up in that, right? When I was at Nordstrom, we used to joke, like, people would get so upset about stuff, and we would say, "You know, we just sell shoes." Really all we do.
Pull it down to the most
Yeah, but
concrete
you're to your point,
example.
like, we're not saving children's lives, we're not, making medical breakthroughs, we're not helicoptering organs somewhere, we're selling shoes. So keep it
Right.
a little bit in perspective.
Right. And
Yeah.
the thing is that that kind of if you don't and that fear breeds paralysis.
It does.
It does. And so you get clarity by doing. I mean, you have to mix reflection
Mhm.
with action,
Yes.
and that generates clarity. And then
Yeah.
that generates a set of behaviors or actions that move you towards something that you've gotten clear on,
Yes.
and you adjust accordingly.
Yes.
It's,
You
it's
reevaluate
yeah,
constantly.
it's
Yeah.
like you're navigating, right? Well,
Yeah.
people who fly planes or
Yeah.
command boats and stuff. They're constantly adjusting their course. They're
Yes.
headed in a direction, but they are going to adjust the course according to the environment.
Yeah. And I think what happens a lot of times in my experience this and my friends experience this was that, we set a course, right? We're going to make, as an example, we're going to make VP, we're going to make SVP. Like that's it. And we set that goal probably at the time we joined the company, or maybe even a goal that we set
Yeah,
decades ago that I would be SVP or VP by X age, right? And at
right.
that time when you were 25, when you set that goal, that seemed like everything. But life changed in those 15, 20 years, right? Priorities changed, things that were important changed. The company you're working for changed, what values changed. Like everything changes. But what I see a lot of times and where I got stuck and other people get stuck is just continuing to run after that goal when it no longer makes sense to you.
And that's why pausing is so important, because you won't recognize it doesn't make sense for you if you're not, like, examining where you are. And I tell people, I know that they talk about New Year's resolutions. I don't really do that,
No.
but I do think that there are certain times of the year, and maybe it's a little different for everybody, that it behooves you to stop and spend, like, a personal retreat. Like,
Mhm.
it could be just go off by yourself to a cabin and just
Mhm.
divest yourself of all the distractions and all the noise and allow that to come through this, whatever it's doubt or it's a new way of creating or a new vision. But you need space to do that. If you're busy, 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 then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you go, why am I doing this?
Well, in my case, one day you wake up in the doctor's office and they go, "If you don't cut this shit out, you're gonna die in the next 10 years."
Actually,
Uh,
that happened to me. That's
yeah, and that's
exactly
what happened to you. Like, some of us just have to hit that rock bottom, in order to feel that space. But can you talk about being in that space? Because I've been in that space and it's pretty scary.
it is, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. It
Mm,
is scary because it is the unknown, and so that's the switch that has to flip is looking at the unknown as a place of fear, to, like, looking at the unknown as a place of possibility.
mhm.
So, what's possible if I were to do this? Or what's possible if I were to create that? And there's a lot of people who have to pivot their businesses right now for
Yeah,
all sorts of
variety of reasons. There's
all
no
sorts.
shortage of reasons.
I know. So what happens is, like, I had one client who said, like, "Well, what do I do? Like, I don't even know which way to go." And so the
Mhm,
thing is, when you ask that question, like, "I don't know which way to go, which way do I go?" There's an underlying assumption that the outside world will determine where you're going to go. Like, I should check in with the outside world to determine where I'm going to go. And I actually don't think that's the first step. I think that when we have to pivot or adapt to a changing condition, we can pause and then instead of saying, what is the outside demanding of me, to say, what is the vision that I want to create? What is it
mhm,
that I want to create even in this environment, like,
Right.
what do I wanna create? Not do I want I never s I always tell people, "Don't say what do I want," because that's like a deer in headlights question.
Yeah, that's a Santa Claus list, that's different.
Yeah, that doesn't work. But what do you
Mm-mm.
wanna create? In other
Yeah.
words, your next step will be driven from your internal source,
Yes.
not from the outside. And even,
Yeah.
like, with entrepreneurs, they tell me, "If you're not building a business that makes you happy, you'll fail.
Yes.
No no
And
matter
when it
how wealthy you get, you'll fail."
Yeah. And when it stops making you happy, stop doing it. I think and that's back to that reevaluating as you go. When you no longer have joy, then you need to pivot in another direction.
You do.
But you come up a really good point is that, if you're going through transition or you're being forced to transition, our first reaction almost always, right, is to run to the job market and find the next job, right? And we almost always go for the job we already had, the similar to the job we already had, like whatever.
Something
We
that's
never
safe.
take an Yeah, we
Yeah.
never take that opportunity to say, I don't know, like, what would I do, if I had this opportunity to start all over again? And I think that's where we just repeat the cycle, right? And it's just more and more. So what you're suggesting is take that time.
Yeah, and there's another aspect that's showing up big time right now, and that is grief.
Yes.
There's a lot of grief in the environment. And
There
so,
is.
I have a client who lost her job and she immediately is like, "Well, I need to write my resume." I said, "No,
Yeah.
because you don't know what you're writing your resume for." And
You're just
so,
writing a resume for the job you just got thrown out of.
and she'd been there for 17 years.
Yeah,
I mean, and she like literally grew up in that organization.
I
So
know.
there's grief there. And until you handle that grief, until you allow for that space for that grief, you're going to carry it into your interviews. You're going
Yes,
to
you
carry it that
do.
my thing about everything is energy. You're carrying
Yeah,
that energy, that kind of sorrow, sadness, longing, whatever you want to call it, into
yes.
this next place.
Bitterness.
And it's going to
Yeah.
show up. People will
It
sense it.
does. It shows up, and you can't help it because I'm gonna tell you how it shows up because I've seen it and I'm pretty sure I've done it, is that if you don't take the time, you carry all that bullshit from the what just happened to you with you, and you show up in the interviews, and this is how it shows up. Well, the last company, they didn't really treat us well, or some sort of negative connotation that you drag into that interview with you, and then it just sits like a mist over the whole thing.
It's not a good place to make a good choice. You know,
No.
when you're in that state. It's
Yeah.
interesting because I will say, now that I've lived in other countries, uh, the Americans don't deal with grief very well. They're like,
Oh, no.
"Oh, 3 months, you should be over it by now." And this is all kinds of grief, by the way, including death.
Oh, yeah, we don't do grief well.
No,
No,
you don't do grief. And so
no.
and then, in other countries, there are rituals around grief. There's a
They
space
honor
made
it.
for grief, and I think it's healthier because I mean, it's mental health. Come on.
We're
It's
getting there on mental health. I will say we are actually using the word mental health in the United States now, which is huge improvement over where we have been historically. So,
right.
yeah, we are taking that seriously. But yes, we're terrible about grief, and you're bringing up a really good point. People are grieving loss of their families, their friends, I mean, their work
Their
families,
lifestyle,
their lifestyles, their
their neighborhood,
dreams. I
their
mean, their
freedom.
dreams, right? People are close to retirement. They were gonna do X, Y, and Z. They earned it, and it's, like, completely ripped out from under them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I wanna make a point is, if someone is really in survival mode, like, I need to make money because I have to pay my bills, take a job, with the
Yes.
understanding that it's only because you need it. Some people have a little more privilege and can spend more time in that kind of zone where, they're examining their life. Some
Yeah.
people don't have that ability to do that. But don't do it as like this is where it ends. Do it as this is going to support my ability to actually make a good decision in the future, or like don't stop thinking about what you want to create.
Right.
Um, Continue to do that. And so I do want to make that because some people just don't have that availability there. They've got kids and bills and all that stuff. But for those people that do have some kind of savings or ability to, spend more time, whatever decision you make from a place of being grounded is going to be a much better decision than a place from grief or anger or fear.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
that includes also that kind of applies to businesses too. So if
Mhm.
businesses feel like they have to pivot because they've lost their funding and stuff, then, you have a team of people who might be committed to, like, having a conversation about what is the vision of the future that we wanna create for our business, for our
Mhm.
organization, and then start with how you get out of paralysis. Start taking steps to create that vision and adjust accordingly, but move. Don't stay in paralysis. You have to move. Uh, and everybody has a different timing for that move, and it should
Yes.
be honored. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less.
Yeah.
But the idea is to move from fear and the unknown to curiosity and possibility, and then move to, like, okay, what are the steps to create this thing that I get clarity on?
Yeah. And those steps, let me tell you, you and I have been through this several times. Those steps are very small.
Yes,
When Alicia talks about move forward, we're not talking about sitting in paralysis for 6 months until you've got the whole thing baked and you figured out every single thing that could go wrong and you've
right.
ruminated on everything and you've catastrophized everything and you've worked it all through and you've got every single thing and you finally at the end and you're like, "Okay, now I'm ready." No, we're talking about taking a step at the beginning, the 6 months ago, and even if it's the wrong step, the
Yeah,
thing that is so hard to accept, and you have to remind yourself, and I say this to people all the time, I remind myself all this time, is you can change it. It's not etched in stone.
right. Right, right,
If
right,
I
right,
said I'm
right.
gonna go to the party tonight and something happens and now I can't go to the party, it's okay to say no. If you discovered along the way that maybe your joy wasn't really in digging up rocks, it was sifting sand, pivot. You don't have to stay committed to what you said.
Right. And then the
Yeah.
other aspect, going back to the mental health, is, the need for self-care.
Yes.
When when you're in that space and you might be afraid or grieving or unsure, this isn't the time to let go of self-care. It's actually the time to really focus in on your eat well,
Yes.
exercise, get
Sleep.
enough. And when you're anxious, these things can be very difficult to do, but you really have to focus at the fundamental level. It's like, I need,
Mhm.
because that's how we gain our safety. There's a sense of, like, I'm not safe in this kind of bardo space, in this transitional. There's a sense that's where the fear is. I'm not safe. And then by it really being intentional about self-care, physically, physiologically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, this is how your foundation gets shored up, if you will, so that you can take steps to move forward and
Yes.
kind of walk yourself out of fear and paralysis into a new possibility. And
Yes.
again, I'm saying, if you might have to work a part-time job or whatever, that's fine. But, like, all these things still apply. It's not an either or, it's an and.
It's an and I wanna talk a little bit about self-care because, with the internet and influencers, it's become such a thing, and we sort of associate self-care with expensive spa days and expensive shit that you put on your face and, apparatuses and massagers and all this crap that you have to go buy in
Yeah.
order to provide yourself with self-care. So I want to talk about that because I think a lot of people are not even trying to offer themselves self-care because well I can't afford it. So let's talk about some great, very cheap, if not free, self-care things that you can do.
Mine is standing right behind me,
Yes.
and you should know because you've been here.
Yeah. Go for a walk.
Go for a walk. Go to
Go for a
someplace
walk.
beautiful. Go for a walk. For me,
Go
it's always water because it's my
yeah.
thing. But,
Well,
like,
I'm a saltwater baby
na
too. Yeah.
wherever you can get out in nature is always a plus, and as often as you can.
Yeah.
Nature is what it is. It's not changing according to
For
your mood.
you. No.
Yeah. It
It's
is
bigger
what
than
it is.
you, it's been around longer than you, it's got a bigger purpose than you, like, nature is very humbling for me, I enjoy being out for in nature, but move your body, walk, ride your
Walk.
bike, Do something. Like, it's free, do something. We spend so much time sitting at our desks,
Yeah.
and not getting any exercise at all. And we're counting steps because we walk back and forth to the coffee machine. No, go outside and go for a walk. Okay, what's another thing we could do that's free and or very
So
cheap?
you have to cook, don't you? You have to cook to eat.
Oh, yeah.
Be
Yeah.
intentional about what you're feeding yourself. Don't go out and just have pizza every night. Not there's anything wrong with pizza, by the way. I love pizza.
Love
But
pizza.
but what I'm saying is a healthy meal, but do it with care. Do it with
Yeah.
appreciation. Do it so whether it's for you alone, I mean, people who live alone say, "I don't cook for myself." Well, you should be cooking for
Oh, I
yourself because
love to cook for myself.
you're like your most important person is you.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Oh, I have
but,
a
you
whole
know,
cookbook full of with solo tips I write in there. How do you make this for one person? Like,
yeah, or just, freeze the rest of it if you don't
yeah,
wanna, but yeah, things like so I think of, like, the really basic things that don't require paying for a massage or a spa. The other thing is, not for anything that I don't know in the United States, but here in Portugal and in Europe, we barter. We
yeah,
I'll barter a coaching session for a massage. There are things that you can barter. If someone has a garden and they can provide vegetables for you, maybe you do some yard work for them. I
yeah,
mean, it builds community. It
yep,
builds a sense of community. It reminds us that we're codependent, but in a positive way, that we're interconnected and we can
yeah,
support one another in small ways,
yes, yes,
right?
I agree.
And the next thing that it's kind of along that time, if you have the time, the energy, the ability, is volunteer.
Yes,
Get out of like, "Oh my god, this is awful, my life is awful," and go volunteer and be at service to something or someone else. Get
yeah,
out of that, you know?
yeah.
And it's interesting because you never know who you're going to meet. Every interaction holds a possibility.
It does, it does. I'm kind of living through that right now, but
Yeah,
yeah. And so in times of scarcity, be generous is, something that you taught me a long time ago. And that's certainly something that I've exercised in my own personal life when I'm feeling really crappy or I'm very unsure. I know that other people are probably feeling the same way around me because it's some sort of economic condition or I'm going through something that somebody else may be experiencing, that sense of uncertainty.
right.
And it helps to help someone else through that.
Didn't you do that when you first moved down there for the oystermen?
I did. I volunteered for all of the watermen and helping them build their oyster businesses, and now I'm building another oyster business, and it all came to fruition, right? Because in that time during COVID, the
Yep.
watermen didn't have anywhere to sell their oysters because the restaurants were down, and they're not a very, like, tech savvy group. They work the water all day. They can fix any motor in the world,
Cool.
but, they're kind of lost on a computer, and so I helped them start online businesses. Yeah, and it paid a lot. It helped my community. It helped them. It helped me because I was going just batshit crazy not working, and then now I'm continuing to work with them and building
Yeah.
more and more business 5 years later.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of what's possible. So I think we have to like really expand the way we think and fear keeps us like in this little box. So it's really important to do things that counter that fear and that's like that mind shift to possibility, to
Yeah,
service, to self-care. These are all elements of being able to be in that unsure space, but
yeah.
as a possibility waiting to arise as opposed to something that's scary.
And I will tell you that helping other people when you're in that space makes a huge difference.
It does. It gives you
It
a sense
really
of
does.
purpose.
It
Yeah,
does, and it seems counterintuitive because when you're in that space, you almost wanna contract, right? You're like you
right.
wanna isolate, you're like, "No." For me, I'm like, "No," and I isolate, but forcing myself back out was a huge benefit, and I've done that a few times. I did that when I left
Yep,
Amazon. I worked at
yep,
the food bank,
I
and
remember.
I volunteered at that food bank for the holidays for a few years after that. So, yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Alright,
So those are all things.
excellent. Alicia, anything else you wanna leave us with?
I think these are difficult times, and I think, we need to maintain our optimism, our sense of humor, and our sense of, strength through community.
Yeah, compassion. We are coming up on the holidays. This may
It's gonna
be
be
a
hard.
rough holiday for some people who are used to having a certain way and they're not going to have it. So it's going to be a tough holiday. So, be cognizant of those who are around you too, that
Take
other
care of each
people are
other.
suffering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
take care of yourself. This isn't a time to, like, say, "Oh, I don't have time for myself." No, make time for yourself.
Yeah, it is. Excellent. As always, thank you, Alicia.
You're welcome. Always, always a pleasure. Until next time.
All right. Thanks.